A watershed event in the history of India's space program. India will launch a mind-boggling not 1 but 10 satellites through this indigenous polar satellite launch vehicle. Given the number, it's a challenging mission for the Indian Space Research Organisation, as this sleek core-alone PSLV rocket will have to eject the satellites in orbit at the right time and the right angle, one after another. The cluster of satellites includes the latest remote sensing satellite, Cartosat-2A, equipped with a high-resolution camera and would be used for mapping or spying. The Cartosat-2A aside, the PSLV will also place on orbit the Indian mini-satellite 1. And of course, 8 nano-satellites built by universities and research institutions in Canada and Germany.
The countdown for the launch of India's latest rocket is progressing on schedule. The Polar Satellite Launch Vehicle is scheduled to take off on Monday morning from Sriharikota in Andhra Pradesh. The rocket will launch 10 satellites, and if successful, that could be a world record.
This rocket is eyeing a place in the record books. It weighs 230 tons. That's the weight of almost 50 elephants and is as high as a 12-story building. Its target is to put 2 Indian and 8 foreign nanosatellites into orbit. If successful, it will beat the current world record of launching 8 satellites at one go, a feat accomplished by a Russian rocket almost a year ago. At liftoff, the first stage will ignite, pushing the rocket higher. One after the other, the second, third and fourth stages will ignite, taking the rocket beyond the atmosphere. Almost 15 minutes into the flight, India's mapping satellite called Cartosat-2A will be the first to be put into orbit. 45 seconds later, the experimental remote sensing satellite IMS will be released. Then, one after the other, the 8 foreign satellites will be dropped off. These small experimental satellites weigh between 3 and 16 kg and are made by students from Canada, Japan, the Netherlands, Denmark and Germany. The entire mission will take 20 minutes, but all eyes will be on the high-resolution mapping satellite. Placed at a height of over 600 kilometers, it can identify objects as small as a car. This now sets the stage for ISRO's next big launch, its maiden shot at the moon with Chandrayaan. In New Delhi, Pallav Bagla for NDTV.
10 satellites, one spectacular launch, and a dramatic new world record. No one, not the Russians, not the Europeans, not even almighty NASA's, ever put that many birds into flight in one tremendous heave.
The team ISRO has done it again.
The orbit is perfect.
This has gone very wonderfully well.
So exactly what did we send up? India's 690 kilo Cartosat clicks close-up photographs of India and adjoining regions. The 83 kilo Indian mini satellite is a remote sensing satellite too, but much cheaper and much more compact. Also sent up were 8 small foreign satellites. ISRO charged $600,000 for the service. It's also offering data from the 2 Indian birds to our neighbours.
We will be making available the data to the developing countries. A low-cost terminal can receive the local specific data and thus can go towards the capacity building in the developing countries.
This rocket, the Polar Satellite Launch Vehicle, can easily punch 1,500 kilos of payload into space. Very soon, it will also send up India's first ever mission to the moon.
Chandrayaan, our first submission to moon. It will be an instrumented payload which will circle the moon for almost 2 years, trying to map its terrain as well as the minerals. The preparations for this launch are going on. We hope by the third quarter of this year we will be taking off.
Indian space scientists today did what no others have done before them, launched 10 satellites at one go, in fact in the space of 16 minutes. Here's an exclusive report from Ground Zero, Sriharikota.
It is here at the Satish Dhawan Space Center in Sriharikota that the countdown began at 7:53 a.m. last Saturday. The mission, a first in Indian space history. 10 satellites to be launched at one go.
9:10 a.m. 13 minutes before liftoff, scientists run last-minute system checks. On a complicated PSLV rocket that would eject the satellites into orbit at the right time and right angle, one after another. The cluster of satellites include latest remote sensing satellites Cartosat 2A, equipped with a high-resolution camera and will be used for mapping or spying. The PSLV had to place in orbit the mini satellite and 8 nano satellites built by universities and research institutions in Canada and Germany. At 9:17 a.m., Mission Control is informed of a low-pressure building in the Bay of Bengal and the possibility of last-minute delays. The tension builds.
The scheduled time of launch was 9:23 a.m. After last-minute checks, the weather experts were contacted to see if this window was perfect for the PSLV C9 to take off.
5 minutes later, the scientists confer and agree on going ahead. The countdown begins.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Yes, the vehicle has lifted off.
9:23 a.m. The PSLV blasts off. History is made.
In the control room, the mood was tense and also full of hope. For the entire 19 minutes after the rocket launch, there was breathless anticipation as one by one the satellites were put into orbit.
14 minutes later, after liftoff, the fourth stage of ISRO's workhouse launch vehicle blasts off. 10 satellites are injected into the 635-kilometer polar sun-synchronous orbit. 9:38 a.m. The mission control declared mission accomplished.
The configuration here at the mission was perfect, and spacecrafts were delivered on the dot. And for ISRO, it's a historic moment.
Even as India has entered a new realm in space research, there is more to come. India's first ever unmanned moon mission, Chandrayaan-1. Like you said, now we are all set for Chandrayaan. So when will we see the first unmanned mission?
We hope by third quarter of this year we should be able to go to the moon. It will be an instrumented payload which will go around the moon and try to have the map in terms of the terrain.
On this historic day, Indian space scientists are confident of a bright future. The ambitious space program plans 3 Chandrayaans, and then 2 Indian astronauts will be sent into space 7 years from now.
Now, out of the 10 satellites that ISRO successfully launched on Monday, 8 are nano satellites designed by students from foreign universities. ISRO's gesture to piggyback them has won the hearts of the student community in many Western countries.
Over the moon, and why not? 8 of the nano satellites launched by the ISRO are functioning well. These are low-price satellites designed by university students in Canada, Japan, Germany, Holland and Denmark. They say India's space capability impressed them, and ISRO took only 5 hours to sign the deal.
We have been looking forward to this day for a long time now. We've been waiting for it, all of us in suspense, not just here but also in our various home countries.
AIS, as we call it, space capability, will be able to identify a ship. Not only that, we'll be able to see ships that are around it. And the search and rescue people of any nation will be able to call up those ships and say, there is a ship in distress, please go and help.
The launch has come as a big relief for this team from Japan. 2 years ago, their dream was shattered when the Russian rocket carrying their satellite to space failed in its mission.
Today, we are very, very happy, and I appreciate ISRO's support.